Today we're diving deeper into the whole Bricks and Minifigs story because we have details on the entire company and how it's been completely family run. Then we're going to talk about episode 4 coming from Reckless Ben that should be dropping very soon. Let me know if you guys have been following the Bricks and Minifigs story, and if you have, I have a complete playlist on the channel that breaks through everything from day 1 until today. This morning I'm drinking my morning coffee. Let me know what you're drinking. Now, let's dive in.
But Bricks and Minifigs didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built inside a family business network that's been running the same playbook since 1991, nearly 30 years before Bricks and Minifigs ever existed. This new investigative database just mapped every company connected to this family, with 56 companies, 184 corporate events, 136 court cases, and 417 documents.
Okay, so these guys are definitely not new to the industry. That's 136 court cases that they've been involved in is actually nuts, although they have been in business for quite a long time.
So by the end of this video, you'll understand why Brian's missing collection, the no legal obligation responses, and the silence every time someone asks about ownership aren't isolated choices. They're the same tactics this family has used for 3 decades, just applied to Lego instead of whatever came before it. So I want to give full credit up front to that retired dude on YouTube. I'll link his channel, his videos, and his website. You can take a look at all this information in the description down below. Huge thank you to him for putting this all together because it is truly insane how much information we have. Thanks. So with that being said, let's get right into this. So where does this all begin? It begins with our boy Daniel McNeff, Ammon and Matt McNeff's father, who started forming and dissolving Utah companies on November 4th of 1991.
Forming and dissolving. I'm curious as to why the dissolving part is happening. Either they were unsuccessful companies or they were some type of shell companies covering up for something else.
Starting with Intermountain Filter Service in 1991, Rocky Mountain Filter Service in 1997, PulseJet Incorporated in 2000, PulseJet Filter Services of Utah in 2001, and Western States Filter Incorporated in 2002. That is 5 different companies in filtration and industrial services opened across 11 years. Now I'm sure you're wondering, Lego Empire, why do these stupid air filter businesses have anything to do with Bricks and Minifigs? Well, Ammon didn't invent this business style that we're currently seeing him use to run Bricks and Minifigs and affiliated companies. He grew up watching his father run this exact model, which is form a company, operate it, let it quietly dissolve, and move to the next one. So this is the environment that shaped how Bricks and Minifigs would eventually be structured. But
now you have to think, operate it, let it kind of fizzle out, and then move on. I guess what he's trying to do is not make a fortune from each of these companies, but to make a living, to be able to support him and his family throughout the time that it's open, and then just move on.
Let's look at the first time this family got scrutiny, which was way before Lego. So, starting in 1993, a cluster of sportsman's club entities appears connected to this family, and multiple different variants of this company were formed and dissolved between 1993 and 2005. That retired dude on YouTube who investigated all of this notes that some of these tie to physical buildings that in certain cases sit completely empty, with ownership changing hands multiple times before McNeff connected entities took control. And this is connected to Bricks and Minifigs because it is the earliest documented example of the exact complaint franchise owners are making right now, with stores or properties tied to this family that don't operate the way you'd expect a normal, transparent business to.
I wonder if Bricks and Minifigs is just getting to the point for the owning family that they're like, okay, we're in the fizzle out point right now. We've gotten to a point where we've made our money. That's not being as successful as we want it to be. We're not making profit. We want to let it fizzle out and die. I mean, it's basically the structure that they've gone with for the past, 30 years.
So the pattern of paper entity control predates Bricks and Minifigs by decades. But what about Legally Mine? Well, in January 5th of 2009, Ammon McNeff formed Legally Mine LLC in Utah. Legally Mine has its own long, separate reputation for complaints. They are a legal services company known for aggressive sales tactics entirely unrelated to Lego or franchising. And around it, a cluster of supporting entities forms the same day and in the years after, such as BTJD Corporate Services, LM Oldco LLC, and the Central Utah Film Fund. And again, this should remind you of Bricks Minifigs. We have one public-facing brand surrounded by a web of quieter supporting entities that most customers and franchisees never even hear about. So if you've wondered how Bricks and Minifigs can have a parent entity that the FDD contradicts itself about, this is where that playbook was first built and tested. But just how quickly are some of these companies being formed and dissolved? Well, on October 31st of 2019, Legally Mine Tax and Accounting was formed. And on February 6th of 2020, that same company was dissolved, being barely 3 months old. And again, this relates to Bricks Minifigs because entities that exist for only weeks or months are almost never accidents. They typically signal a specific short-term legal or financial purpose. So keep this pattern in mind because you're about to see it again, this time directly involving the company Bricks and Minifig used to dodge legal service.
So what he's saying here is Bricks and Minifigs, or the people involved in Bricks and Minifigs, they're actually creating companies to fit specific needs that they may have at that time. If they need legal representation or some point, they could open up some type of a law service that they can make money from it on both ends. Essentially, they're just hustlers.
The company is LMRA Services.
And I don't mean hustlers in the good way of hustlers.
The exact shell game which is being used against people suing Bricks and Minifigs right now. LMRA Services Incorporated appears in Utah records 3 separate times under Ammon. Once in November 2016, another time in January 2018, and a third time in February of 2020. And according to that retired dude's investigation, this is a known tactic. When a company is the registered agent for receiving legal papers, and someone gets close to successfully serving it, the entity dissolves and immediately reincorporates under the same name with a new registration number. So the mechanism is like one entity registering as a domestic commercial registered agent and another as a foreign business corporation, both sharing the exact same address. And Utah law bans confusingly similar registered agent names, but the foreign corporation registration thing kind of sidesteps that rule. So a process server could show up and the team can legally refuse to accept service by claiming it's the wrong entity, with the same address, the same people, the same name, but they have a different registration number. And it doesn't take a genius to see this is probably the exact company structure sitting behind Bricks and Minifigs registered agent today. Every franchise owner or former employee trying to legally serve Bricks and Minifigs or its related entities may be walking into this same trap, which has been built and tested for nearly a decade before it mattered to anyone outside this family. Not to mention in Reckless Ben's, I believe, part 2, when he won that civil court case or whatever it was and tried to get his money back, it's like the Salem, Oregon store closed down and they didn't have to pay Ben or any of his friends for that case because it just closed down and went AWOL. So we've seen this type of pattern applied in multiple different ways. But where does Bricks and Minifigs itself fit into this timeline? Well, Bricks and Minifigs Franchising Incorporated shows up in the Utah database as of October 21st in 2020. So to be accurate, this is very likely Bricks and Minifigs Utah foreign registration date, not the founding date, which was originally in April 2011, as I'm sure most of you are aware if you've been following this story. And then they were reincorporated in Delaware in October of 2023.
For tax purposes.
So this shows when Bricks and Minifigs formally stepped into the same Utah ecosystem with the same registered agents, the same family members, and the same address clusters that have been already running this playbook for almost 30 years, showing that Bricks and Minifigs wasn't built from scratch. It was built inside an existing system. But it goes further because on July 16th of 2025, Bricks and Minifigs IP Holdings LLC is formed. So what this does, which is actually pretty common and is sometimes an entirely legitimate move, it separates a company's trademarks and brand assets into their own holding entity. And it's also a well-documented way to protect valuable assets from being reachable in a lawsuit against the operating company. And this matters for Bricks and Minifigs because this happened less than a year before the Brian Mansell story exploded publicly and Reckless Ben's lawsuit escalated. So if Bricks and Minifigs Franchising Incorporated, for example, loses in court or franchisees come after it financially, the actual Bricks and Minifigs name and brand value may already sit protected in a separate entity completely out of reach. But we actually have had some insane things happening in 2026. On April 6th of 2026, the Centra Wealth Solutions LLC was formed. In May 29th of 2026, Legally Mine LLC dissolved and refiled. On May 29th of 2026, the same day, Legally Mine Tax and Accounting LLC also dissolved and refiled.
It sounds like they're dissolving and recreating companies to try and protect themselves from damage if this whole Bricks and Minifigs saga gets worse, or they were preparing for it to get as bad as it has gotten.
And to me, just in my opinion, this could be a company trying to hide some of the companies Bricks and Minifigs is related to, because they are aware that the Bricks and Minifigs scandal is blowing up. It's going to blow up, and there's going to be a lot of heat and attention going to the Bricks and Minifigs Franchising Incorporated. And this isn't just one or two people, it's the whole family. Matthew McNeff has 4 entities. He has Dare to Dream Holdings in 2006, Makima LLC in 2011, Legal Process 3 LLC in 2011, and Craigle LLC in 2017. Evelyn McNeff, Ammon's father, formed Dream Elf Enterprises LP in 2012. Miranda formed Rose Pine Haven Publishing in 2023. Nicole F. formed NFM Marketing LLC in November 2025, which is one of the newest entities in the entire data set. So this shows that beyond Ammon and Daniel McNeff, there are other McNeffs and people connected to this family that are indeed involved with all these connected companies. So if you call back to the last video about Reed Brimhall potentially being a majority owner and his reported family connection to the McNeffs, this is the wider picture that supports that reporting. This was never just Ammon making decisions alone. It's been an extended family network, each with their own entities interconnected through shared registered agents and addresses, which makes who's actually responsible a much harder question to answer, and possibly a much harder company to hold accountable in court, which I think is the strategy here. So knowing this is a huge web, a huge empire per se of companies, what did every franchise owner actually buy into knowing all of this? Every person who signed a Bricks and Minifigs franchise agreement for up to $600,000 joined a system connected to a family with a documented 3-decade Utah business history of forming, dissolving, and refiling companies.
If only they knew about this type of information first. I mean, would you get into a franchise that was known for creating and dissolving companies? It's complete instability, and honestly, it looks like some type of a Ponzi scheme, right? Get as many people in as you can, make your money, and then completely leave.
So even though Ammon McNeff has been claiming this is an isolated incident since the beginning of the scandal, I think it's clear that it's not as isolated as he is claiming. It fits a pattern that predates Bricks and Minifigs' Utah presence by almost 30 years, and it seems to be still actively used this year. In this lawsuit, and with the pattern that Bricks and Minifigs has been following, it seems to align pretty well with the McNeff family history.
So that all continues. The drama of how large this empire is outside of Bricks and Minifigs, showing us that really it's companies being created, companies being dissolved, money being put in the pockets of the family that's doing all of this. But we do also have another episode coming from Reckless Ben.
A few days ago, Reckless Ben went on the Unsubscribe podcast and previewed exactly what's coming in his part 4 of the Bricks and Minifigs documentary series, and that is bigger than anything Ben has done so far. And this isn't speculation or anything, this is Ben in his own words describing what he's already filming, so let's break down everything that he revealed. First, just to give a quick recap on what Part 3 covered, it proved that Ammon falsely told police that Ben threatened to burn down the building and harm the people inside, and that led to a false police report, which was confirmed through Bricks and Minifigs' own body cam discovery.
You see that there's 6 million views on that? Bricks and Minifigs is getting so much negative press right now. Honestly, the franchise is doomed, and again, I feel bad for any franchisees that bought into it that haven't even opened up stores yet, and for franchisees that have stores that are going to see such a decrease in business.
Ben then filed his own report against Ammon for it, and the police said that there was no credibility to it, then pivoted to charging Ben with something else instead. 3 months later, Ben's case was dropped, and Ammon's case against Ben kept moving forward. And there are some other fine details in that part 3. I definitely recommend you go ahead and watch it. But as far as part 4 goes, it is going to be huge because Ben directly says that his team is currently interviewing other franchise owners whose stores were taken using the exact same playbook used against Crystal. And his claim is that Bricks and Minifigs specifically sends 2 people, Josh and Brandon, to seize stores across multiple locations. And the pattern is that franchise owners invest their life savings into this, being anywhere from $200,000 to $600,000, sign an agreement, and corporate inserts clauses that let them seize the entire store for almost any technical violation.
Honestly, it's a disgusting, dirty move, and it's unfair to franchisees who are trying to pursue their passion to open up a Lego shop, just when the parents of all of this, the parent company, the leaders, need a few extra bucks in their pocket.
Ben also previews a specific new case involving a Florida franchise owner that asked corporate for permission to bring on an investor during a hurricane-related financial crisis. Corporate said yes to this, then later used that same investor arrangement as the justification to seize his entire store. So Ben's read on the situation was that Bricks and Minifigs approve things specifically so they can use them against you later. And on the topic of why victims can't fight back in these cases, it's because every franchise owner Ben has talked to says the same thing. They can't afford a lawyer because Bricks and Minifigs already took their life savings when they seized the store. Bricks and Minifigs then uses that same money to out-lawyer them. Ben says, quote, they steal their stuff, use their stuff to pay lawyers to steal more stuff.
I mean, that's literally their whole plan. If you are having, you could tell as the franchise which franchisees are struggling financially, and then you can go attack those people knowing that they don't have enough funding for representation and completely take advantage of them.
So the part 4 finale plan is as follows. Ben's stated goal for the end of part 4 is to organize every harmed franchise owner into a class action lawsuit against Bricks and Minifigs corporate. And his framing directly answers the Ben is hurting innocent franchisees criticism, because the plan is to get those same franchise owners connected with lawyers and compensation to rectify any wrongdoing on Bricks and Minifigs corporate part. Additionally, any extra settlement money from Brian's case may go toward funding this effort for other victims. So part 4 isn't just a continuation in the series, it is Ben widening this from one man stolen collection into a pattern affecting franchise owners across the country.
Wow.
And if even a fraction of what he's describing holds up, this becomes bigger than anything covered in this saga so far, because we're finally going to see multiple franchise owners take part in a class action lawsuit against Bricks and Minifigs corporate, and Reckless Ben is going to be the one documenting it all and helping them get it organized.
Essentially, this story is just going to get bigger and bigger as we continue to follow it. And Bricks and Minifigs, they messed with the wrong content creator in messing with Reckless Ben, because he has nothing holding him back from exposing everything that he finds. Now, I'm going to go sign off for the day because it's actually my birthday. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this coffee. I'm going to head to the gym with my son, and I hope you guys have a great day. If you want to look at more of this story, check out this playlist, and I'll see you guys over there.